Then we were having trouble blocking defensive ends. And just one thing at a time. Every week we tried to address a different problem. Am I right? And every week he just got better and better. By the end of the year, the defensive end was always blocked when we passed the ball. By the end of the year, every time we rolled over the ball, we held linebackers. And we just did he just did a great job with that. And again, he'll be a returning starter next year, varsity letter this year and last year. And just a great kid, a great family. And we really enjoy working with him. Mike Congress.
Watching on TV, most of us take a look or notice the skilled players, what some people call skilled players, the running backs and receivers and quarterbacks. That's what our eyes are trained to watch. It's very difficult to notice what's going on inside. Sometimes it's hard from the press box or even from the sideline until we get a good look at the films, and then we can run it back and forth and back and forth. Year with us, and he is a varsity letter winner. He had the opportunity to play both defensively and offensively at the varsity level. He ended up as a starter towards the end of the season on the offensive line, in and out. We have 5 positions, but you need 6 or 7 starters. And we consider our 6th and 7th people up front a starter. And Andrew was what we call a swing. He played tackle and guard for us, improved a lot. He needs to get stronger and quicker, but knowing the way he is and the way his brother Jake progressed, I'm sure he's going to be a very good player. Andrew. Now these next 2 guys, they gave me more headaches this year than I can tell you. I'm going to talk about them together because I don't think of one without the other. Chris Woodrow and Kevin Carrigan. Start out, summer practice. Woodrow and Carrigan, yeah, they're going to be good players down the road. Well, things turn out, and here they are, starting inside linebackers in our defense and playing the heart of our defense. Now, inside backer is like playing tag on the expressway. There's people coming at you from every direction. You're trying to get through them and try to find a ball carrier. You're getting drilled. You know, these guys aren't real big yet. Woody kind of sneaks under legs and behind people. And Kevin's are strong, Woody's are quick, and that's a perfect description of the way they play. They both progressed a great deal during the season. Kevin fills hard to the football, and if you know anything about football, you know what I mean. He'll come and attack the ball carrier. Does not always win the battle, but he attacks the ball carrier. With experience and growth, he will win the battle most of the time before he's done here. Chris is a sneaky little backside backer, going through people, behind people, crawling, going after him, and he's just a force. We're going to have the 2, I'll go on record right now, and I'll tell you, we will have the 2 best inside backers in this league, maybe next year, for sure the year after that. So I think maybe next year. They accounted for a large number of our tackles. They play well together. They finally, after being yelled at 8,000 times a week, started calling our defenses. You know, we use a lot of defensive audibles and sight adjustments, and the inside backers have to call that. Well, early in the season, you know, we're sight adjusting our defenses. We're going to an odd front or something, and you hear this. Woody's a deaf mute or something. Chris. Finally, after I was a deaf mute from yelling at him so much, they started doing it. They're going to play well together. They're going to be a dominating force in the league. And they're going to be excellent 2-way players. And I figure with 8 to 10 months of good rest in my throat, I'll be ready to yell at you again next time. Kevin Carrigan and Chris Woodrow.
Final assistant coach that will be presenting this evening is Coach Tim Riley.
tell you, I feel old here because Chipper and I go way, way back. I guess it was about 6 years ago, right? We were in wrestling together. I coached him in wrestling in 7th and 8th grade, and here he is. He was a water boy all that time, and now here he is up. I looked out, first time Coach Mason called for water, I'm looking for Chip. There he's out there drinking the water now. Hard to believe. Chip's a natural athlete. I mean, anybody that's been around him, he's, even from the time he was in 4th and 5th grade, he just knew that he had everything that a natural athlete has. He played defensive back for us, and as a freshman, I mean, this is quite a tribute. Chip played the corner, which Coach Wolpert probably wouldn't agree with this, but it's probably the most difficult position, and it is the most difficult position to play on the defense. A lot of responsibility. People do see you out there, and when you make a mistake, everybody knows it. If you remember back in college, our defense coordinator saying if defensive lineman makes a mistake, it's a 2 or 3 yard gain. The linebacker makes a mistake, it might be a first down. If the defensive back makes a mistake, the band will play and it won't be ours. And Chip learned that a couple times firsthand. Being a 9th grader, that's okay. I'll tell him that now since the season's over, but I don't want to hear the band playing anymore. Chip has no fear of responsibility. He took on that task of cornerback late in the season when it looked as though Chip might have to play quarterback. He had no qualms about it. He went in there totally assured, confident that he would do the job, and that's a great tribute to him. We're expecting big, big things from Chip in the future. Good job, Chip. All right, Johnny Convery. You know this guy's tough. Look at the shoes he's wearing. Only a tough guy could wear shoes like that, right, Johnny? All right. I was watching the Eagles the other night in the Astrodome, and I thought of Johnny. When Wes Hopkins was taking people's heads off, I thought, boy, John must really be enjoying this. Talk about the Astrodome, people often say it's the 8th wonder of the world. Sometimes I think that Johnny's the 8th wonder of the world. I don't know how a guy this size can get his heart in his chest. He's that great a competitor, and I mean that sincerely. I mean, officials have come up and told us, opposing coaches, boy, that 32 really hits. Now, I can remember way back the first week of the season when we played Springfield, and they have a couple of physical running backs, and they were running through us a little bit, and we got down near the goal line. And I said, Johnny, sneak up a little bit. Maybe you can get in there and make a tackle before they score. Well, sure enough, their fullback comes running through, breaks a couple tackles, and all of a sudden he stops dead in his tracks. This kid's about 205 pounds. The bottom of the pile is Johnny Convery. I'm thinking to myself, come on, Johnny, get up, get up. Sure enough, he bounces right up. And if you've been to all the games, he always bounces right up. And he's always the guy that seems to be at the bottom of the pile. He has a nose for the ball. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had over 100 tackles this year. That's quite a tribute. This guy loves to tackle people. Sometimes he forgets that he has pass coverage responsibility, right, John? But we'll overlook that for now. Other things about Johnny that I admire, he has a great Notre Dame wardrobe. In fact, this is the first time I've ever seen him without something Notre Dame on. So, this year, in tribute to Johnny's great defensive back play, he was selected 2nd team All-League in the Independence League, and that's quite a tribute for a sophomore. That probably deserves a round of applause. Offensively, he also made some fine contributions. He makes circus catches. Anytime the ball's in Johnny's area, usually it's caught, and it's usually because he's leading the speed. He makes great catches. JV, sometimes I would just stand there and watch him. I'd get so excited with some of the things that he would do. He's a great player. He has a lot of heart. It's not only a pleasure to coach, it's a privilege to coach someone like John Convery. Great young man. I'd call him the toughest kid on the team, but I'm afraid that Mike might take exception to that. These guys are both very tough individuals, and I'm looking forward to seeing both Converys wrestle this Saturday. If you want some entertainment, you want to see 2 great competitors come out and watch the Converys and the other guys wrestle on Saturday. Thank you.
as a sophomore and decided not to play for whatever reason as a junior. We were disappointed in that, but we were happy to have him come back out and play football as a senior. He did come out. He was an offensive lineman for us and played in some ball games. He was a defensive tackle for us, played in some ball games. One of the key things, fumble recovery, that everybody kind of whooped up about. Steve made a fumble recovery in a ball game. And what I really appreciate, because Steve was not a senior that started all the time. He wasn't a two-way starter like a lot of these guys were, or even a single-way starter, so he was playing most of the ball game. And that's not always an easy task, to be a senior on a ball club and not be an every down player. But to be able to hang in there, be there every day, make his contribution as he did, both in practice and in games, ready for us whenever we needed him, always playing on the scouters and things like that, which is also a real important job. He really made his contribution. We're glad he came back out as a senior. Wish you all the best, Steve. Thanks a lot for everything. Has been in the program for a long time. Last year, as a running back, he started to really emerge at the end of the year. Rob can run. He's fast. And he's a slashing type runner. And as he went through the program from the time he entered to the time he graduated, he became a much more physical runner. He got north and south. He squared his shoulders. He got up in there. And that was nowhere more evident than against Bristol. He had his best game. A lot of talent right here. A lot of talent. Real nice kid. And a lot of respect for him from me in terms of what he had to deal with. Football is not an easy activity. Football is not an activity. Football isn't like any other sport. It's not like baseball. It's not like basketball. It's not like running track. It's different because people are coming to hit you. It's a physical, combative war game. That's what football is. Football is a war game. It's not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. It's a game fought over ground. And when you haven't done that, it's not an easy thing to do. Troy came out. He's got great God-given ability. He's fast. And he came out and he worked real hard, and it wasn't easy. And I really respect the heck out of this guy because he stayed with it. Sometimes it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. And he learned some things. He learned some things that were different. There were people coming to hit me. You know? And he stayed with it. He ended up being our leading offensive force in terms of the opportunities he had to touch the ball. He rushed for about 400 yards, scored a touchdown, caught 14 more passes for a couple hundred yards, scored a couple touchdowns. Was always a force for us, always ready to do anything. Towards the end of the season, we got him some other places. We threw him the ball out at end. A real contribution. And I'm so glad that we were able to work with Troy this year, and I hope it was as much fun for you as it was for me, Troy. Thanks for everything. Very well acquainted. We see Les all the time. Les has been in the program for 3 years, and last year, during a JV game as a junior, during a JV game at ANC, all of a sudden he started making all these tackles. And he hadn't played varsity up to that point, but we watched him make all these tackles against ANC in a JV game, and we said, we got to give Les an opportunity to play football. And he did. And he started last year, last 6 or 7 ball games as an inside linebacker for us. And this year came back as a senior, and he was a real key guy in what we were planning to do. Les was a two-way starter, and they're very team-oriented. He started on the offensive line, and he started the season at an inside linebacker. Started the season an inside linebacker, and we got into a couple ball games, and as Coach Wolpert alluded to, Kevin Carrigan and Chris Woodrow really started to come on. They really started to come on, and we felt we needed some help in the outside unit. So about 4 games into the season, we say to Les, we're going to move you to strong end. Fine. Went out to strong end and played better football at strong end. Really helped solidify things out there, created a good situation in the outside unit. Played good football both offensively and defensively, and had a special kind of spirit around the locker room. Doesn't know, but thanks a lot. Has been in the program for 4 years, and Jim and Barbara down there, this is the last Benjamin. We've had a lot of Benjamins going through, and this is Rod's last time. And it's going to feel kind of strange not having a Benjamin to talk about. Rod started for us, played both offense and defense. Started the season at defensive end. Towards the middle of the season was an alternate at defensive end, played there off and on. Continued to start the entire season at offensive tackle. Did a real nice job. And late in the year, his shining moment was the ball game he had at Bristol. Rod went back in, played defense against Bristol, had a great game, couple sacks, made a lot of things happen on the defensive line, was a real force in that ball game. And I was really excited about that. I thought, geez, you know, Rodney, he's really finishing strong, you know, he's kicking tail, going out to finish his senior year. And then he went over to Springfield and went to Mrs. White's party. What that means is he got knocked out. And he came off the field and everybody said, you know, Rod can't think. You know, get Rod out, he can't think. And I honestly, I said, so? But as I said, 4 years in the program and a lot of contributions along that way. Fought through some injuries as a young kid, stayed with things, ended up being a starter and a real contributor. Rod Benjamin. It's Doug, I'm sorry. Okay. Doug Horgan. Doug, Doug was a two-way starter this year. Did not play football until he was a junior at Lower Moreland, then decided to come out. In another situation where the guy doesn't play when he's younger, gets to be a junior, decides he's going to give it a shot. We're really glad he did. Really glad he did. Last year, we saw him play in a lot of JV games, and we got the same type of feeling for him in those JV games we got about Les. He was making a contribution. He was playing defensive back last year and playing well. You know, he was creating problems in the secondary for people, going up after the ball, and just about the time, in fact, the exact time, that we decided Doug Horgan's got to play some varsity football for us last year, he got injured. Right in the JV game, broke a bone. Came back late in the season, wasn't really much time. As we got ready for this year, we had Dougie in our plan. We had Doug in our plans. Doug. We had Doug in our plans. He ended up being our Willie, which is our weak side outside linebacker, and also our Rick back, which is our right halfback. Doug scored a touchdown against Chestnut Hill. The thing that I remember most about Doug, particularly offensively, is that he didn't make mistakes. He really didn't make mistakes. If we needed to run a counter isolation and he was the lead guy, he got in there, got the lead guy. If he was the ball carrier, he ran the lane. He didn't make mistakes. He was a heady ball player. He got to where he was supposed to be, took care of his responsibilities, and was a real solid force on both sides of the ball force. Doug Horgan. Rudy, it is Rudy. What the heck? Jimmy. Now I'm getting ready. Okay. Scott Kaufman. Scott has been in the program for 4 years. He's one of those guys that came out in 9th grade and really didn't understand what it was all about, but hung in there. When the going was tough, Scott hung in there and kept getting the job done. As a sophomore, he made some improvement. He went, you know, from not playing a whole lot in JV games, maybe playing a JVB game, to playing in JV games. As a junior last year, he became a varsity player. He started in the secondary for us last year and also at end. Had a real fine junior season. Real fine junior season, and the thing that really stuck in our minds coming into this year was the type of hitter that Scott was out of the secondary. As a junior, he had some real big hits coming out of secondary on run support. So we moved him up. He was our lion this year, which is our strong side outside backer. And Doug and Scott, they were like two peas in a pod. both outside backers traveling around and so forth. Scott was also our tight end, the guy that we went to most of the time in our strong side running game, and also caught a couple passes. And the one I remember is that big touchdown to get us started against Perkiomen in the win. Scott coming down with the ball in the end zone to give us a 7-0 lead. Scott Kaufman. 7, has been in the program since he was a youngster, came out late as a 9th grader, stuck around as a 10th grader, was a receiver. We said, Rudy, you're going to be a quarterback going into his junior year. The reason we said that was because we knew he was dependable. He was a good man, never offered an excuse. Could always count on him. He played hard all the time. He was a real competitor. Never looked to blame anyone else for anything that was going on. Always willing to accept the responsibility and the total responsibility himself. He plays quarterback, which is arguably the most difficult position, athletic position in any sport in the world. I don't know what you could say is tougher. Hockey goalie? No. Baseball pitcher? No. Point guard in basketball? No. Quarterback, you got to do it all. You got 11 guys over there that don't like you. You're getting the ball. You're trying to do 100 different things with it at once. You're making a lot of decisions, passing game, running game. Everybody's looking at you. Everything's focused on you. You get the criticism. You get critiqued. All this guy did was a great job. And the one thing that really stands out in my mind about Rudy, and it wasn't always easy, believe me, Rudy never gave me an excuse, ever. I never heard him offer an excuse. It was never somebody else's fault. In fact, one thing that really brings us to mind, we ran a 90 fly away from motion to Troy against Bristol. We're looking for a big play. And the ball was thrown poorly. And it looked like Rudy was going back when he threw it. I said, geez, you know, it was there. It was a touchdown. I mean, it was there. And I said, Rudy, were you hit? No, I wasn't hit. I wasn't hit. I just threw a bad pass. Well, he was kind of hit when I looked at the film, but he wouldn't say it. And that's, to me, that's leadership. That's being a quarterback. That's doing all the different things that Rudy does. Rudy also played some D-back for us. He threw for nearly 600 yards this year and 5 touchdowns. Maintained a lot of poise and composure. And I really, really enjoyed working with him. He also put things in perspective and showed a lot of heart in making it back to that Springfield game because he wanted to be there. Rudy Bachman, thanks very much. Jimmy had some injury problems. He got banged around a lot and had some sickness, played the Bristol game sick, never said a word to me, but played the whole ball game. A real gamer. Started at inside linebacker for us. He was an all-league selection last year as a D tackle, but he was a starting inside backer as a junior, and we put him down. He played pretty well there. He's been around the program a long time. This year started at inside backer, and the same kind of thing. As Woody and Kevin really came along, we found that we could do something else with Les and Jim. Jim went back down again, but he didn't stay down. He bounced all around this year. Bounced all around. Played a lot of inside backer, played a lot of down tackle, played a lot of offensive line. He too was recognized by the coaches of the league for his excellence of play, this time as an offensive lineman. So as a junior, he was recognized by the league coaches as a defensive lineman. As a senior, he's recognized by the league coaches as an offensive lineman. When we talk about kids up, I just need to tell them again,